Hey, welcome to Wine Talks with Paul K. And we are in studio today in beautiful Southern California, about to have a conversation with Leah Poveda of Glenelly Wines from South Africa. Introductions in just a second. Wine Talks available on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, wherever you hang out for your podcasting, and sponsored by the original Wine of the Month Club, now sporting the sweet and rosé series of wines. Hey, listen, have a listen. Just releasing a conversation with Clovis Tétanger, and he was in town in Hollywood, visited his room in the hotel before this big event, had a great conversation, more philosophical than it was about wine, and I found it fascinating. Have a listen. It's out now on Wine Talks with Paul K. But not why we're here today. We're here to have a conversation with Leah Poveda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great to
Thank
have
you for having me.
With your multi-accent.
Thank you.
I'm not going to tease you like your kids do, okay? So I'm not gonna
Please don't.
She is the export manager for Glenelly Wines out of South Africa, which is an amazingly heralded history going back to Bordeaux. But tell me a little bit about you, about what you've been doing, where you're from, and what brought you here.
Okay, so talking about yourself is always a bit difficult, but so I'm born in a family of wine business. We have restaurants, wine shop. We had hotels. And we also distribute a big champagne house, which I'm not going to name today.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I brought a Tétanger.
in France, another one. And so I grew up in wine. I actually started a vet school. And because you always try to not do what your parents do, and finally after 1 year I was absolutely useless, so I moved to wine. So I was a sommelier and a wine buyer for many years, for 10 years, and that brought me to London, to Hong Kong. And also to South Africa. So I started to discover South Africa. My first trip was in 2004. And I was coming back every year, and I started to get more involved with the winemakers, buying their wine, knowing them very well, and then ended up to be export manager for various winery for many years. So I've been exporting or looking after a winery for the last 10 years, and I've been with Glenelly for the last 4 years. I know Glenelly since day one, since they planted the vineyard, because I knew very well the winemaker, the former winemaker, Luca Kruinigan.
You know, this is an interesting background. So many, particularly family-related, in French in particular, where they seek something else originally. They start out thinking, well, I'm not going to be in the family business. I wasn't going to be in the family business. For sure, when I was in university, I was going to do something else. And I end up getting the bug, so to speak. It took a little while for me, but here you wanted to try something else, and you're back in the wine business. Was it the love of the wine business? Was it the history of the wine business? Was it the history of your family and hospitality?
I always I'm very attracted by art and history. And I think wine gives you what you seek for, basically. But I think, history and art is a big part of wine. And then, of course, I'm fascinated by the fact that wine is actually starting with absolutely nothing. And it's enhanced by human touch. So that's an artistry in one way. And then, when you look at chateaus, and, there is always history in any wine. So also, I guess, in France you start drinking quite early, and maybe I discover then by doing so. I think I wouldn't say we drink early, but so it starts. This is how my parents started. So when I was under 5, every Sunday my parents would put sugar in their glass of whatever they were drinking, and that could be amazing wine, and then we would have this, because sugar enhances the flavor of the wine. So you start this way, and then you start to have your first sip, and then by the time you are 11 on Sunday, maybe you'll have half a glass. And so wine is just around you, surrounding you, and also being in wine goes with food for me.
Mm-hmm.
So food is also a big part where we wake up in my family. We wake up and we ask our mom what we're gonna eat tonight.
Well, Dijon,
Yeah.
you know.
And so food, the smell of the stove and my grandmother kitchen and my mother kitchen. I always say it doesn't matter if you don't know how to cook. If you know how it's supposed to be at the end, you will find a way to make it work. And so yes, I think that's why I ended up vet school didn't work out for me because I could smell absolutely everything in the room. And I would pass out, and I think that's why it didn't work for me.
You said a ton there. You're very fast, by the way, when you speak. So
sorry.
It's
I'll
okay.
go a little bit.
You get a lot in, and I want to peel this back just a little bit because it's very important. There's a poster that was posted in 1932 or so in Béziers, France, in the south, and it talked about what you just said. It was really apparently there was an alcoholism problem in France at the time, and so they were the industry of wine was trying to tell the public that it's really not the problem, wine isn't the source of this. And it says in the poster, I'll show you a copy before you leave, that it's okay for a 4-year-old to drink wine as long as you cut it with water a little bit. You guys use sugar with a little water, which is interesting to me because culturally that is completely different than America and any other part of the world. There's something old world and something interesting about the idea that wine is not this beverage of alcohol. It really is part of a lifestyle. It's really part of your life. And so I want to show you that poster. But you talked about the old world and the new world versus old world idea, which is you're talking about the old world. We're talking about the history of wine, the artistry of wine. Is that what's has attracted you? Because it's what's attracting me now. I was in the business of wine when I started doing this, but now it's this history and the artistry and the story of wine, which we'll talk about the Glenelly story now. But is that what's inspiring you to seek the answers to this industry?
Yes, I think so. I think, of course, for me, it's very important to work with a family and a wine that I believe 100% in. And yes, I think wine, the artistry, the history, is really what draws me into, and of course the result. I mean, always the result, but then. You can have the best wine in the world. If you've got the worst company, it's not going to be the best wine in the world. Right. And you can have something really understated and have a very good time and have the most amazing people around you. And this then become the best meal or the best wine in the world to you. So, yeah.
Isn't that what makes it different about any other spirit? I mean, wine it's different every year. It speaks of the soil, it speaks of the terroir, it speaks of the company, the experience. I had this conversation many times with people about how wines taste different just from different times, the same wine in a different place in a different time. But this is what I'm trying to define from this show, really, is to define this value, this ethereal value of that glass of wine with the company you're with. Like you said, you could have an average bottle of wine, but if it's in the right circumstance, it's the best bottle of wine. And that definition is eluding me as to why that's so passionate, why there's so much passion just in that one statement. And you grew up in what's considered the gastronomical center of the world, right? Dijon, Lyon, Burgundy.
In the south.
In the south. Yeah. So this marriage of the, and I call this the old world definition. That's what I wanted to get to. How would you define old world wine and old world culture versus the new world wines? You call it a piece of a ground, or do you call it a style, or what do you call it?
So I think it doesn't matter if it's old world or new world to me. I think everywhere in the world you've got good people, bad people, and anywhere in the world you've got good winery and winery that perhaps don't do. But I think in any case, someone that play with Mother Nature for 1 year and wake up every day to play this game and is willing to play this game for 1 year to then have his own game to play for maybe a year or 2 years. I think is a risk taker. So it doesn't matter where the wine is coming from. I think, when you already do this in itself is, it's amazing. Then New World and Old World, I mean, I don't know. For me, French people have been making wine for, many years, and so is Italy, and so is Greece. But, climate change things as well. I think if you have the opportunity to use the latest technology, why not? But I think, it should be a minimum intervention. The same for food. I think everyone was seeking, those amazing, experiments with food. And I just say, I want a scrambled eggs, but I want it perfectly. Yes. Just use butter and eggs. And I think the seeking to come back to bend the rule, you need to know the rules. And I think if you start with simple winemaking and the simple rules and know the rules, then you can bend them, and then you can make your product better. Same with cooking.
I think cooking, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was reading some old champagne house books, recipe books, and I follow as an Escoffier website to see, to extract those flavors and understand the history of food. It's the same thing as wine. It's the history of it that you want to try to understand. But I find the technologies of wine, and this is why I asked the question about New World, Old World. We have all these technologies. We have optical sorters. We have all this technology, but the objective is the same. It's to produce the best that we can produce from what we're getting. And I think this without intervention isn't a new thing. I mean, the ancestors in Burgundy, what intervention did they have? What were the monks doing, right?
Exactly.
I mean, are we going back to that?
I think we are. I think, no, I don't. I think we can't go back to no intervention today, because we have a commercial pressure as well. Yes. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
That's a really good point.
There is what you want to know, what you think, what you want to do, what you think you want to do, and what other people want you to do.
You're very articulate.
So I think, yes, sometimes there are things that we would like to do, but at the end of the day, we also have followers. We also have people that have expectation. We have buyers that have got expectation, and we have also writing about us, and medals that we compete for, and points that we compete for, and we have to pay people that works for us, and we have to pay bills. And so
you're just destroying the whole industry in one.
But that's the reality of things. Yes, there is. I think there is a poetic way, and but there is also the realistic way, which is the commercial way as well. And I think that can't be taken away. So you want to be true to yourself, but you also have. So many other things to respect. You have the environment to respect around you. You have the people that works for you, and to do this, you need a certain amount of cash in a way to do those things. And
that's an interesting thought, because I asked this question the other day. It just came to me. I was like, I wonder what would happen in this industry if there was no profitability issue. If making a profit wasn't a problem, and we only had. The objective to produce and extract from the soil what best represents that time and that place. It might be a different industry. It might be a different, approach to things. I mean, and tasting your wines, they're gorgeous, and we're going to talk about Glenelly now. But there's a wonderful expression here that transcends commercial. What I sense would transcend sort of the commercial part of our business. The commercial part of our business is slightly sugared, sweetened wines that people grab off the shelf, and they're going to spend, in America, $15 or so, and that's just 14% alcohol, and there's no history, there's no story. But if we could tell the story without profit, it might be a different marketplace. But of course, that's totally unrealistic, and we can't do that. But so much of our business is the story.
Yes, and that's why it's a hand sell. I mean, our wine are hand sells. That's why I'm traveling. That's why I'm talking to you, because we have to tell our story. We know they are not cheap wine, but we have to tell the story of what we do and how we do it and why we do it.
I found that you said they're not cheap. I found the wines extraordinarily high in value.
Yes.
The winemaking quality is very high, and the expression of where it's from and what it is was very good for the price. I was very impressed with that. But let's talk about that marketability for a second. This place, when I taste wines on Tuesdays, is pretty much a temperature gauge of what's going on in the industry. I get what's out there, right? If Australian wines are hot, they're hot, and they're in here, and I haven't seen them lately. Sancerre's hot right now. I see a lot of Sancerre, right? I mean, what did that come from? When did that happen that Sancerre's hot? You're the first South African winery I've had in here in a long time. Is there a renaissance of South African wines in the United States, or what part of the world is really thinking about South Africa?
Well, I would say, South Africa has done very well in Europe for the last 10 years. I think the UK was really cheering us up. I think the history of South Africa with Germany and Holland, for example, as well, make it work in this part of the world. Asia is very much opening to South Africa because they had also some problem with Australian wine. But the problem with South Africa is just after the apartheid, after the election of Mandela in 94, we were exporting, but we were exporting in bulk and we were exporting cheap wine. And I think that was the whole consensus for a lot of people. It was, South Africa is cheap and cheerful. And in the year 2000s, this is where we had investment, foreign investment, various investment, people really believing that this would be the next big thing. And so we have amazing winery and amazing export. But yeah, the value is still very good. But for a lot of people, once we pay our tax to enter each country, we are still expensive wine.
Yeah, that's true. Tax, of course, tax.
Yeah, another reality, commercial reality. So I do, you tell me, but I think, certainly we have seen with our importer, Cape Classics, then things are going very well. But, they were some of the first one to import South Africa. I think they are celebrating their 30 years. And this is because of those guys who did their job for 30 years so well. Then we only scratching the surface with South Africa in US. So yes, hopefully it will grow because there are some talented winery out there. Let's not forget that, South Africa is about the size of Bordeaux, the Cape. The planting Cape is the size of Bordeaux. So,
how many overall appellations are there in South Africa? Just the larger.
So it will be about 10 appellation, and then you have some sub-appellation. But we've got about 115,000 hectares planted, which is Bordeaux, and 90,000 will be for the wine. The rest will be for fruit industry. So that's not huge.
No, but the 10 appellations, interesting. Are they distinctively
district?
Paro.
Yes. So I think it's important to start with South Africa to kind of say. I always say it's like if you drive to Spain, Italy, and France all at once in the space of 3 hours. Cape Town is the center. Surrounding Cape Town, you've got vineyard north, east, south, west. And really, you can go around if you didn't stop driving in 3 hours.
Really?
In 3-4
Bordeaux,
hours.
you could do the same. Right?
Yeah. So here you go. But each soil will be very different. You have very much microclimate, and the temperature change can be extraordinary of 10 degrees Celsius, so it's 25 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, if I drive from Stellenbosch to the MNLRD Valley in midday, sometimes it will be 10 degree difference. So if you look at north of Cape Town, you've got the Swartland. That would be your area where it's more your Rhone Valley kind of wine, a lot of Syrah, lots of Pinotage as well, old vine planted in 100 years ago. Then on the east of Cape Town, you've got Stellenbosch and Franschhoek. Stellenbosch and Franschhoek are the home of wine in South Africa. They were first planted in 1679. The French Huguenots then came after the War of Religion in France to make wine in Franschhoek. And then you've got the south of Cape Town, that would be Cape Point. That's more Sauvignon Blanc because you are influenced by the sea. And then a little bit further southeast, about an hour and a half down southeast, you've got the Emenelarde Valley, which then would be influenced by the sea. You've got the sea as acting as a natural air conditioning, and you will be between 400 to 800 meters above sea level, and so you can make Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Wow.
So you can cover every kind of grape if you wanted to, just in the Cape. And the soils are extremely different as well. This is the oldest soil in the world, 130 million years, because because we didn't have any seismic intervention there. So you have the oldest soil.
It's interesting because here you've got an industry that's from the 1600s, the 17th century, and that would be, you would like just define it as old world. I mean, right? But it's new world in that you can plant whatever you want.
Yeah.
And the wines I'm looking at here, which are Bordeaux varieties and Burgundy varieties, which when you mentioned some of the other districts, you've got Syrah, Pinotage, Chenin Blanc, who's a very well-known wine from South Africa. Neither three of those are all that extraordinarily popular in America. And here now you bring in the first time I've tasted a Chardonnay from South Africa, frankly. I think I have had some Bordeaux varietals before, but wonderfully nuanced. But that sort of defines what the New World is, right? We're not shackled by the Burgundian rules or by the Bordelais rules or by any other part of France where you have to. And so this is why I brought it up. I mean, I'm confusing myself actually, but there's this for Americans. For me, I have this incredible respect for the French, for instance, to protect their appellations, their butter, their cheeses. They're all defined, right? You have certain rules, and how cool
those
that
are
is.
the essential, though, butter and cheese. You have to protect.
That's true. What else is there, right? But they protect them.
Yeah.
And in America, there's this jealousy from the Europeans saying, "Wow, they get to do whatever you want." South Africa's like that too. Do whatever you want, try whatever you want, and here you've created these amazing wine.
I think you can do whatever you want if you can do whatever you want, but you have to respect what's around you as well. If we wanted to plant Pinot Noir and Chardonnay only, we would have probably bought somewhere else. But we are Bordeaux DNA. Wanted to do this in a different way with Mother Nature, so we're not pretending to copycat something, because at the end of the day, if you copycat something, then you will never succeed. So you need to work with what you've got in this area, and then bring your knowledge. You bring your knowledge, that's it. Then the rest is around you. You just have to be able to see it and analyze it. So Chardonnay was one of the grape we didn't have in Bordeaux, and that Madame de Langzin wanted to plant, and it's doing very well for us.
So let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
So the Bordeaux DNA, and here you have Madame Langzin here, amazing history in the wine business. So tell me a little bit about how she landed in South Africa by working backwards to her born family. Yeah.
So Madame de Langzin, May Eliane de Langzin, today is 97. She was born in 1925 in the Mialet family. The Mialet family was already very established in Bordeaux. We have a stamp, 1783, which is a stamp to show that the family has been involved in different things: brokerage, winemaking, exporting, and so born in 1925, just after the First World War. Nothing. She was born in a family. I mean, our playground was, Château Certain and Pichon, and her dad actually bought with her uncle Pichon that year when she was born.
Wow.
But then we had the Second World War. in France, and that was tough for anybody in the wine industry. And slowly France is recovering. In between, she got married. She married Captain Hervé de Langzin. She go and live in America, and she will have 4 children. And it's only in the 60s that, when dad passed away, so you had Château Pichon, and then it was split in 2. So you had Château Pichon Baron and Château Pichon Comtesse, and Pichon Comtesse was given to Madame de Langzin at the age of 53. So, she's an incredible woman because she had to restart and go to school and viticulture, and she successfully drove Pichon the best 30 years of Pichon. She managed the whole thing with brio. She managed some of the best year, 82, 83. But she also wanted to do something else. She also wanted to come out a little bit of this shell of very distinctive Bordeaux family. She wanted to do something different. She is very passionate by viticulture, vineyard, soil, and she already saw that on very old viticultural book that potential were present in South Africa. So after the apartheid, she traveled more and more to South Africa. She was more and more interested. She was also the president of the IWSC, where she created the Pichon Awards, and that was to reward the best New World Bordeaux blend, and quite often it was made by a South African winery, Merlus, Vergelegen. Those are old winery, very respected winery. And then she started her search, and it's only in 2003 then she found Glenelly. So interestingly, Glenelly, we have no neighbors. We are in the Ida Valley. The Ida Valley is before most of all the winery in Stellenbosch, and she saw it. It was a fruit farm planted in an amphitheater, and she said, this is good for me. We have no neighbors. It's an amphitheater. We can create as many components for our blend. And then just after the visit, she's also aware that this used to be a vineyard in 1679 by François Villon, French Huguenot before her. So 300 years ago, that was a French vineyard. We've been attacked by phylloxera in 1886. And then it was never replanted as a vineyard. So it was a fruit farm when we bought it, and so we brought it back to be a vineyard.
This is one fascinating woman. I read that she ran bread to the Jews that were being hidden at Chateau Palmer.
Correct, yeah.
What a risky, brave, courageous thing to do, and particularly in Bordeaux, where the Nazis had taken root for a little bit. And then she marries a captain who comes to America and becomes a general, I think, eventually.
Yes.
And I've been reading a book on the French Revolution, and I had no idea. I never paid attention to school, so what do I know? But this connection between the French generals and General Washington. So I find that fascinating that this gentleman comes to Kansas, and 13 years, you said? I mean,
yeah,
that's unbelievable. But not most important, but an important piece of what you just said was, this is probably one of the early women in wine. It's such a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, right? Here you are sitting,
yes, here I am.
traveling.
Yeah. That's why I left France.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is really because of this, and I left France.
Why? Because it's so patriarchal?
Because 25 years ago, I had someone telling me that, I will never tell him as being first very young and then a woman what to drink. So I left.
Really?
Yes.
So I'm out of there. Where'd you go?
Right I went to the UK.
Oh, you went to the UK. Yeah. So, okay. So this is an interesting question, because we talk about it a lot, and there's a lot of press. And now there was an article recently about Armenian women in wine, since I'm Armenian. But here, what were her headwinds as she was given this as a dowry almost when she's age 53, and she's in one of the great viticulture parts of the world? And was she looked at like, it had to be the good old boys network in Bordeaux, even, right?
Yeah.
Were there headwinds with this?
No, it was no headwinds. In fact, everyone wanted, to put little stick in our wheels. So it's tough, and it is tough. And she said it was tough. I mean, when you speak to her as a woman to another, she will tell you that it's tough, but she will tell you that the only thing is your saving grace is to know twice as much as the boys.
Yeah,
so this is what it is. It's
so there are headwinds. I mean, you have to work harder.
And you had to work harder and you have to work smarter. But she also believed that, women are very much nurturing character. And so, when you are this way, making wine is just a second nature in a way. So, again, I think any extremism is bad. So I'm not going to, go on to say... yes, I'm a feminist and I think she is as well. But I think... it's about working with the people around you as well. And so, yes, she was in a wine business very early, being a woman in wine business. We have seen some others. And, she succeeded because she had a strong character and she had to succeed.
Well, clearly. There was that problem in America, and it seems to be loosening a little. I had a young intern here who was a young woman, and I got her into a couple wineries in Napa to learn and speak with some women winemakers because she really wants to go to enology school and become a winemaker, and I think that's fascinating. In the 60s, there's a woman here named Joanne Dupuis who found herself in 1976 sitting between Alexis Lichine and Andrei Telechev at a luncheon when the results of the Judgment of Paris came out. And she had brought Mr. Barrett to Bordeaux on a trip, and he got the phone call at the chateau at Lacombe. And so, but her claim, what I would love about her story is that she was the very first woman to ever address the Napa Valley Vintners Association. Now, you talk about the good old boy network. I mean, trying to earn your salt.
Well, I mean, for example, she was one of the first one to export to Asia. So then it opened the door for many other. And, that, for example, in itself is an accomplishment and something that she's done for the whole industry. And then, wherever she's been, she's always been helping people. So people remember her. She always has time for people. She's always very compassionate. She's a people person, so evidently, people get attached. And, she's just being herself, really. Yeah, right. And this is the way she is.
I think that's probably what got her there. Is that
exactly. I think stay true to yourself, but she has this sensibility with other people. So I think that's where you...
So when she decides to come to...
to South Africa, yes.
Drop my pen. She comes to South Africa.
So we planting in 2004.
But did she research the land? You have
of
fruit
course.
trees there. Figure out what the grapes
It takes
are.
many years before we find Glenelly.
Yeah.
Because I think she wanted to have no neighbors as well. Originally she wanted to do this beautiful replica of a chateau. She said to me, I love the architecture of, when you go to Chianti and those parts of the world. But she said, I had to find myself thinking about, the next generation and how, I would make the difference. So we have a hyper modern winery. It's a concrete block, but coming out of the land, where eventually we will have probably more green on it. But she, for example, so the architect was South African, and we had two architects, a South African architect and a Swiss architect, and she wanted everyone at the winery to feel happy. So light is happiness, and so we have those really big glass window on every level of the winery. So whether you are in a cellar or in a tank or preparing the order for the export, you have access to the light and you can see the vineyards. And also we are working on gravity flow, so we need a minimum, so that is minimum impact onto the wine, minimum energy. We recycle obviously all of our waste. We've got solar panel. I mean, it's a very modern winery with very big ambition to sustainability. So we don't use any air conditioning because naturally the concrete retain retain the right temperature. We've got snakes of water in between, running through. The water is recycled. Water is our big problem in South Africa. People always ask me, there are a few things. They say to me, are you impacted by climate change? Yes, we are. We will, in 2018, we were almost at zero water in Cape Town.
Wow.
Now in Stellenbosch, we were a little bit less affected, but still, nobody wants to be at zero water. And then the other thing is, being a new world winery and being less impacted by climate change, do you see that there is change in your vintage? Is there? Yes, of course. We have vintage variation. We want vintage variation because this is the DNA of the wine. This is what we want in our wine. Yes, 2015 is not going to be the same as 16, but this is what we want. We want to show that this was the year, this was the challenges, and this is how we're working towards it.
Wine should be and is a sense of time and place. This
Agree.
is where we are, and this is who we were. Now, I have a more important question. Do the guest quarters have windows too? I mean, do you have?
Well, yes, we have a beautiful tasting room where you will have the view of all of our vineyards.
Okay, good.
And
Just want to make sure when we get there. You said sustainability, and I think it's an important subject for today's world. And I, not getting into the organic biodynamic conversation yet, but I think as a sustainable, wouldn't you want to be sustainable? As a business in general, any business, whether it's a winery or not, wouldn't it just be more efficient, more practical, maybe cost a little more to do? But isn't the idea of sustainability just something that should be natural to, particularly a winery?
Well, I think not to a winery, to a person. Would you feed your children what you wouldn't, So it's, I think it should be natural to anybody. It's not because it's our business, it's because it's us, because we have beliefs and because we want to do the right thing for the people that drink our wine, for the people that are working in our winery, and for the people that may have it in 50 years. I think this is just a natural way of being. Maybe that's more of a woman touch, maybe. I think. Trying to preserve as much as you can. In fact, we've got this really big blue gum trees. They are a bit like eucalyptus, and I know there is this big discussion. First of all, it's beautiful, but it does take a lot of water from our vine. So the big conversation is, do we not? It's beautiful, but so everything is really thought about. But yeah, I think it's just a natural way of being.
It seems like to me.
And yes, a business should definitely go to this way without, bragging about it. It's just a normal thing to do. I mean, recycling your waste, buying the right thing, doing the right thing, try to buy close to home if you can, try to buy seasonably. So it's the same when you do wine.
I think that when you talk to winemakers, particularly historical, families like May's, Madame May, you consider yourself a steward of that land. You're just passing through, and what better way than to hand it off to the next generation or the next group better than you found it, or at least sustained as what you found it. And sustainability seems to be the only way to do that. And I think in America it's becoming now. There are sustainability groups. You can get certified. I'm not so sure certification is a necessary thing. If you're doing it for the love of doing it and for the practicality of doing it, you just do it. Why do you have to get certified? I'm not sure the consumer cares. I don't think the consumer even knows the difference between sustainability, organic, or biodynamic. I don't think they understand that very much. You're talking about the hand cell. We'll talk about that in a second. But it seems to me it's just a way of life to hand off and protect and to be humble about what your role is, and not be this giant monolith company that's producing as much wine as it can, as cheap as it can, to flood the market. That's the commercial part of it. So I think it's an interesting and necessary approach to particularly the wine business because we have so much land to deal with. Um, how is it with the organic side of things? Is there a movement in South Africa for organic wines? Do people care? Is there?
No, there is a big care. In fact, sustainability is very much. South Africa is at the forefront of sustainability. We are very advanced. We have on all our capsules a seal with integrity and sustainability. So for the people, for the land. But yeah, organic. So some people do biodynamic with little success because we have disease pressure. We are next to the sea, let's not forget, very close to it. And we have disease pressure. So leaf roll is one of them. So it is very difficult to just be 100% organic. And then what do you if you organic, we also have the pressure of taking care of the people working for us. And again, that's producing wine, selling them, paying people. And so, if you go too far as to lose a whole harvest, how do you come
That's
from this? I mean, we are happy to charge you 5 times the price of the bottle to do those things. But, this is where it needs to be a balance on, where you want to be, who you want to be, and what the expectation of people are. Our job is to produce the best wine we can with the element that we have, whilst protecting the environment about us, while making people working for us happy, and while creating moment for the people who buy our wine. So that's a lot of box to tick, but
and you keep an eye on all those balls
you
in
need
the air.
to,
That's
yes,
a lot.
yeah.
And then you have to come out to America and hand sell. And I want to just peel that back a little bit for the listener on what a hand sell is, because you're going to go to the supermarket. You're probably not going to see Glenelly wines on the shelf.
No.
We're going to see 19 Crimes and Josh and Apothic Red and all this other stuff. And so you have to come around the world as an export manager and pour these wines and have people understand this story. In America, how's that being received?
Well, today is my first day.
So we don't know yet.
But we don't know yet. But in general, I think, doing this for quite a while. And also, let's not forget, this year is very much the first year after COVID where we are traveling extensively.
True.
So we haven't seen people. So I think, everyone is very positive. In fact, in Cape Town, we had something called Cape Wine a few weeks ago, which is a major fair for international businesses. So people from all over America came, and where in fact I think half of the attendance was from America. Wow. So it's to say that I think things are moving. But I also respect that if you guys are in a wine country right now, you are so buying what's next to you is what should be done, and buying South African wine, dare I say it, that's a very bad sales point of me, but buying South African wine should be not on the bottom of your list, but buy the right one, buy the right winery, buy the the winery that do the nice thing, and buy them because it's expensive, buy them once a month or next month, buy a case. Open the case at the end of the year, see where the wine is at, But of course, nobody can say anything for buying, what's around you and taking advantage.
You're the first import winemaker or import company, I'm trying to phrase that properly, that has said that yes, you want to buy local, and coming into California, coming into Los Angeles market is a difficult market because we have Napa Valley and we have Temecula, which wines are okay, and then we have Sonoma and we have the Central Coast, etc. You do have to compete against that because it is the local thing. On the flip side of that, Napa Cab isn't inexpensive. It's very expensive. I mean, I think
yes, it's very expensive.
$8,000 a ton for grapes. So
yeah.
How do you're competing at a different level? And this show is really meant for, and hopefully gets to the consumer that says, yeah, maybe there's something to learn about wines from South Africa. Maybe there's wines from Australia. Maybe there's wines from New Zealand that are fun to taste and interesting to taste and will expand my palate a little bit past over extracted, California wines.
That's part of the wine
That's what
journey.
it's for, right?
That's part of the wine journey. Try as many wine as you can from different places.
And so is this your this trip in this particular 4 or 5 days you're in America to get the wines in front of as many people as you can, to explain the story? I mean, just the story of Madame Longue-Sang is very, I have to parse that syllables
It's hard. Yes, Madame de Langzin.
To tell this story. Is that that's what you're doing here, just telling the story.
Yeah. But we also know that, probably the one benefiting are the people in the next, in 50 years from now, because this is what's happening when you open a new winery. You're not in it to make some money. We all know this. And so, before you break even, few years pass by, and then before you are known, more years pass by, and before you are successful. So I think, what we're doing now is
for the future.
For the future. But, in saying this, I think it's fun. I think it's fun to be part of a movement, to be bringing something new to the table, and to tell a story that people probably don't know. It's not the usual, and it's not the... So that is very interesting and exciting.
I'm going to get the book. I'm going to get it in French so I can read the history of her, because I think it's fascinating. The wine industry in America, and I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but the direct to consumer, the thing that I do, which is shipping wine to consumers, and the pandemic, if it wasn't for the direct to consumer business in America, many wineries would have gone bankrupt, because there was no other way to get wine. All the tasting rooms were closed. How was the pandemic in South Africa? I know in France it was very tough, and other parts of the world, but I don't remember hearing about the South African response to the pandemic, and then what happened to the wineries.
Well, so we don't like to be the one crying, but it was worse than anybody else. For a few reasons. We had, first of all, we had prohibition in South Africa. So yes, prohibition, alcohol, cigarettes,
Really?
anything, to leave, because the idea was to leave more space in hospital. But we also know that actually the same people that would end up in hospital will create 80% their own alcohol. So it didn't really make sense, but it was
that
prohibition.
That was a response, was the
prohibition. So we had this 4 times in
Wow.
2 years, and between 1 month, 2 months. But also so we said, okay, prohibition, everything rely on you, Leah. You need to sell some wine at the export.
Yeah, no, that's well, that was your responsibility.
But then we also had export cutoff. So we were not allowed
Really?
to export. Yeah, it happened 3 times or twice, I think. And the first time was 2 months. And so actually, it was tough. It was tough.
Really tough.
Because then it was no revenue. It was no revenue from inland, no revenue from export. And that was really tough. But, I must say the response in the wine industry around the world, like, our importer in US, our importer in various places, they all created this amazing, they all went behind the wine, and because they could see we were desperate as well. So, and without them, we wouldn't have survived. But I think they worked twice as hard with... less way of working,
yeah.
And we made it, and we made it okay, because I think people were drinking and eating at home. So.
Were there fatalities? I mean, in the wine trade there, I mean, a lot of wineries in America closed. The fires didn't help either.
Well,
but some people just couldn't make it.
In the Cape at the moment, only 14 winery are making money. 3% breaks even. Right. So, that gives you food for thought for how impactful it could be.
That's brutal. Well, congratulations on surviving it, because I know it was tough, and it was tough in America. I had gone to Napa Valley just before the lockdown. It was like February, and I was talking to the Napa Valley Register, the wine writer there, and she was asking me questions about how wineries, are going to survive this, because it was coming. And if they didn't have a robust internet presence, a website with e-commerce and a club, which would be my competitor, but they needed a club, and those are the people that survived all this. But it's tough. It's really tough right now. I don't know about worldwide, and maybe you're seeing this, but
yes, it's more tough than during COVID. I think with COVID we had one battle to win, in a way, and then this battle for us was okay because people were at home, and they privilege having good time and eating and drinking. But now there is this worldwide. Everyone is suffering from various things, crisis of living, costs. And so this is where I think our battle is right now, because we are in a premium segment. And we're not in a super premium segment, because we know super premium people with money will always have money. And so the super premium segment is never really impacted. The cheaper wine never really impacted, if not usually doing better. But the premium segment or the medium segment is really where, the middle class are impacted. And this is where, we'll see where we're going to be. But I still do think that there is a tendency for people to buy less and drink better.
Absolutely.
I think since COVID, we have definitely seen this. And that's
sure.
That's very encouraging.
That actually did bear out. However, because I was just, I'm on every website and I get LinkedIn and, Facebook ads from all my competitors and other wineries. It's pretty interesting to me because the last few days, actually, many of the companies that had never discounted, never put anything on sale, always relied on their customer base to pull them through these things. I mean, I'm seeing amazing discounts. I mean, even, I don't know if you know the Shark Tank guy, Kevin O'Leary, right? He has a wine, and he's on sale now, and that was fascinating to see because we've had conversations before. But so it's an interesting time for our industry. Because I don't think restaurants are buying that much. You're a restaurateur.
No, I think we were talking about this arriving here. I think it's tough. Restaurant, it is tough. They have staff problem that is everywhere in the world. Electricity, gas, bill to pay, which are extortionate. And then on the top of this, they have to think about wine that makes as much profit as possible, because, the liquid will make them their profits. So, it's really, I think, the next 5 years will be the tough years.
Yeah. You and I are fighting the same battle because, I'm up against 85 cents a liter, €1 a liter wines that they're buying bulk, in the center of Spain and putting it on a bladder and bringing it here and bottling it, and they're selling it, they're buying, I think bottled it's $2 and they're selling it for $4. I mean, this is, and people are buying it because of the problems you're suggesting, that there's just, there's only so much money to spend on things, and so.
But buy less and buy better, and that's how, or buy the best that you can with what you have, for everything. Something that makes you happy.
I didn't want to end this conversation. We're already at 50 minutes. We could have gone for longer, and I don't want to end on such a sour note of what we're doing. And so, actually, I was going to say something because you mentioned you have a wine shop in, is it Lyon?
No, that would be in Lorraine as well.
Lorraine.
Yes,
So, a few years ago, we went on a voyage gastronomique, or repas, and we stopped in Lyon and we went to Orsi and we saw Bocuse, and it was just the 4 or 5 Michelin étoile type.
Yeah, Trois Gros.
Trois Gros?
Yes,
no, we didn't make it to Rouen. We didn't go to Rouen,
okay,
but I want to next time.
Yes.
But then I was reading a book called Dirt. That's the name of the book. It's written by Chef Bouffard. And he wanted to become a French chef, trained chef, and he ended up in Lyon. And his first job was with a boulanger, and he was the delivery guy. And so, I want your opinion of this. And so he would drive around in this ramshackled Renault, delivering baguettes to only the local bistros and brasseries. So none of the étoile stuff.
Yeah, just the restaurant.
So he had this whole network of these where the locals ate. So I told my wife, I said, we're going to go back to Lyon and we're going to eat at those places. Would that be fun?
That is super fun.
Just the local, forget the other stuff.
Yeah.
Forget Paul Bocuse. Who needs that?
Yes.
Who needs a chicken, in a platter?
No, but that's good too. That's good too.
That's what I want to do. So, all right, we're going to finish this because you mentioned that at your parents' restaurant that you have a chart and a fiche with wines and their curative properties for certain maladies.
Yes, it's a shame because I don't have the picture in my head,
Yeah,
but at
well,
one point I knew all of them.
We're going to put you on the spot right now.
Like and,
I have the list here. So I'm going to give you a malady, and I'm going to give you 3 choices of wines, French wines, to cure this. Now, you've been in London for a while, so maybe this is, not as...
Yeah, no, it's not as fresh. It's not as fresh.
So, if you have, if you want to lose weight, okay? I didn't even know this. I should have started a diet a few weeks ago, just trying to... If you want to lose weight, would you have Champagne, a Saint-Emilion, or a Côte de Beaune?
A Champagne.
A Champagne. Why? Now, see, like the Master of Wine test and the Master Somm test, they're not as concerned about the answer sometimes as they are about the reason for the answer.
No, that's
right?
true.
So why did you choose Champagne?
Well, because Champagne is lighter, there is less sugar, higher acidity. So already by less sugar, you have less calorie. And so if I was on diet, I would drink Champagne.
That's a good one.
Plus, so you're tipsy, so you're not going to eat so much.
Right,
and here you are.
Okay. The answer was a Côte de Beaune.
Oh.
I set you up. I gave you a softball. You're born in Burgundy. You live there, okay? Now it says rich in mineral elements, which is an old person often lacks. I don't know why. I didn't read that part. I don't know why I consider myself an old person. So, but it's because of the mineral content that weight loss is. You should drink a Burgundy, a Côte de Beaune. But then the question is, what's the dosage? How much Côte de Beaune should you drink?
3.
That's
breakfast,
close.
lunch,
4
and
glasses
dinner.
a day. I was looking. I can't find the actual prescription here. There it is. Loss of weight. 2 glasses per meal.
Yeah.
Well, who doesn't do that anyway? So we should all be lighter and we should lose weight.
Yes, but is everybody in America having 2 glasses of wine per meal?
Yeah, we'd be better off,
we
wouldn't we?
do in France. We really do. But I don't think...
Okay, so last question. This is a trivia question. This is fun. We'll wrap this up, get you on your way. But you just remind me of something because the Americans not a couple of years ago, their total consumption of wine surpassed France. Okay? France is still, I think, 8th or 9th on the list of per capita consumption of wine. America is still like 50th or something. But what do you think the number 1 country per capita consumption? And it's like 9 times the number 2 country. It's a trick question, by the way.
The first...
per capita consumption.
Would it be England?
I'm sorry, it's the Vatican.
Ah, yes, I've heard this. Yes, I've heard
You've
this,
heard this
actually.
before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I've heard this, yes.
Leah, it's been such a pleasure having you here, and I hope you have
Thank
a
you so much
successful
for
trip.
having me, Paul.
The rest of the trip,
Thank
and you
you.
get home safely. And
Thank you.
And dinner tonight at the Saltner is
Dinner tonight,
successful.
yeah. Yes.
Wish
Thank
I could
you.
join you. I'm not sure. Tonight, I think we want a hot yoga.
Ah,
So
that's very good. I see, here you go. That's why you can drink
I love it.
wine.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.